Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Let's Talk Sports with Tim McKain, where I have the special pleasure of interviewing defensive line coach and recruiter Juan Navarro. I'm going to ask him questions like what it was like from being a former player to now coach, as well as some recruiting questions. Check it out now on Let's Talk Sports with Tim McKain. Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Let's Talk Sports with Tim McKain. I'm here with North Carolina Central Defensive Line Coordinator and recruiter Juan Navarro. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate you.
How you doing today?
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys being here today.
Thank you, sir. So, what led you to the game of football?
Right. It was just, it was a byproduct of being around probably pretty good people, and then finding a way to probably let out some of the aggression that you could probably have as a young kid. I didn't play until later on in high school. It was a junior high school when I started playing football, and it really, what really inspired me is like I saw guys run, I saw guys hit, and I was really intrigued by that. And then what I really liked is when I used to walk home, I was going home, as a 10th grader, not ever playing, and I was watching them out there sweating and running, and it's like, man, that's pretty cool, just watching people work, and then when you would see them hang out with one another as teammates in the cafeteria, wherever I thought that was pretty cool also, So once it came to that part, I said, man, I think I'm gonna give it a go. And I had a coach named Don Senegal at James Monroe High School who's still there. He was awesome. He just said, hey, you know what? Come in here, we can maximize what you can do well, which is get off the football and hit people, and that's what I did. I mean, he put me at offensive line, taught me how to play offensive line first, and then defensive line, and then the rest was kind of history from there.
I got you. So what were some of the differences between offensive line and defensive line for you?
You know what? In high school, initially, I really didn't know. Initially, I just thought I felt the quickness of it. I felt the fluidity of movement was something that I needed to have, and that I needed to be able to, hit and impact with some level of like velocity, So it wasn't until I got into, practice 4, 5, and 6 that I got to see, okay, on the offensive side, a little more cerebral, like you had to fit certain things, or on the defensive line, particularly how we were playing on the defensive line, it was more attack style defense. Hey, get off the ball, react to something, and then go chase the football down. Where on the other side of the offensive line, it's not that I wasn't aggressive, it's just you had to think of like what angle you were going to take to cut certain things off. So that was the biggest difference, just learning, hey, one more cerebral initially, the second one being a little more attack, particularly at that time when we were playing.
More aggressive, which is what you identify with more too.
Correct, right? That's what I innately did. So coaches were trying to like, hey, at times I was a little tentative on the offensive line. It's like the coach was like, come on, we want that same level of aggression on the offensive side of the ball, but I needed to think a little bit, so it just innately slowed me down,
I got you. So you also ran track as well. So football and track. Was this in high school and college?
Right. So in high school, actually, I didn't. I participated in the field events. So we did, we did the shot put, and really the shot put I got thrown in there because the rest of the guys that were playing defensive line were doing it also, and I really didn't have. I can be real honest. Didn't have a whole lot of friends. So as I got into the friend part of like, hey, this is our team and unit, they invited me in and said, hey, why don't you come out and just go ahead and throw the shot with us? I was like, okay, great. No clue. I mean, never even seen it on TV. So I just went out there and, threw the shot put and because I was explosive, because I was quick, I was able to take advantage of some of those things to be able to compete at the conference level and all that. So that's what I did. When I got to college, same thing. Got to college, I wanted to keep on doing. I was used to training year round, so I just wanted to have something to do. So I did in college. Now I was able to learn how to throw the disc. I was able to how to throw the hammer, and then I was able to throw a shot put. So those are all things that, for my background, my heritage, my Mexican heritage, like those are the things we typically do. So those are things I had to learn how to do and get better at. The hammer you don't throw in California in high school, and the disc you don't throw in high school either. So those are two things I had to learn when I got to college to be able to do it.
I got you. And as a defensive lineman, you won 2 conference championships as a defensive lineman. What was it like winning those conference championships for you?
It was just, I think at the time, very surreal because you get to the point where you just train, and you know what? The moment when you win a championship, unless you get lost in it, you really don't know it. It happens. You win, you celebrate, and then you're on the bus going back home, and you can't wait to have like your post-game snack, you know?
I got
and
you.
then after that, you get home, and it's like, okay, great, everybody's happy for you. And then you get back home, and great, you celebrate, but then you don't get your ring for like another like 5 to 6 months. By that time, you forgot you won a championship, you know? So they'll have a couple of announcements or whatever that is, and then that's it. But the part where you get to win a championship, you know what? As a second or two-time winner, you know what it takes to win. You know the level of preparation that it took you to get to have that opportunity to compete for a championship, which is not everybody does, you know. So that's where I think that's what I learned the most of it. Yeah, it was a good feeling initially. Even when we won a conference championship when I was at Florida International, you know, we as a coach, we won the Sun Belt Conference Championship, the first one in school history. I'll tell you what, I remember all of a good 5 minutes of it. And after that, I don't remember what happened. You know, it's like you just don't remember. We won the Little Caesars Bowl at FIU, you know, in a game against Toledo on a final kick.
Wow.
The final kick, I remember turning around and looking at the scoreboard, you know, because I didn't want to see the kick, and I ended up looking at it because the Videotron or the Jumbotron was up. But I looked at it, and we kicked it, and probably about 10 minutes after that, it's almost like my memory went dead.
Wow.
And I don't remember anything after that.
It was probably the excitement. It was the excitement of the. Maybe you think that's what it was? I think
It might have been that, but it's just like more than anything though, and don't mean to be long, but it's just you just learn what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And how much like just focus you need to have when you get there.
I got you. So my next question to you is, as a defensive lineman, what are some of the differences between when you were playing back for Redlands and now as a coach? What are some of the differences?
I think then, you know, like everything, football evolves, you know, and it depends sometimes on what scheme you're running, in terms of like how you approach the game. But the things of what we call here, when you explode, you separate, and then running to the football, which is our desire, those things haven't changed, and they're not going to ever change in football, particularly at this position, you know, because you still have to get off the football. You still have to be able to get off the football, knock somebody back, and be able to separate and press people off with your hands, right, and your hips. And then you got to be able to release off or separate what we call off the block, and then go chase the football. You know, and it's really, I explained to the guys that right there, those are football fundamentals. Those will never change so long as the game is what it is. The things that do change are whatever scheme you're going to play within. One might be a little more read and react. The other one may be a little more attack style defense where you're like, hey, attack, separate, and then go. One is read the block, fall back into something. So I think that's where, from being a player to being a coach, now you get to put everything together. You're like, oh, that was the scheme that we were trying to play back then, or this is a scheme we're trying to play now. So I think that's evolved. The other thing that I think is the largest thing that has evolved is the mobility part of a defensive lineman. Physically, you're talking about, hey, it's a girthy guy. Yeah, he's explosive and all that. But now it's like we're talking about how we have ankle flexibility, hip flexibility, groin mobility. All that now comes into play, and I become more knowledgeable about it. So it becomes more of a topic for us here, or an area of focus. You know, our athletes have to develop at this level, at the FCS level. Yeah, we get good Division I athletes, right? But our athletes have to develop. So you're having to focus on I'm talking about every aspect of their body physically.
Yeah.
To maximize it, exactly.
Yeah, what they eat,
that's
how
right.
to exercise.
That's right. And then how flexible are your ankles? Because if you can't bend in your ankles, then you technically can't get as low as you can and get enough depth in your knees. And if your knees are, you know, because now we bend in 3 places. We bend at our hips, we bend at our knees, and we bend at our ankles. But if I have very stiff ankles, how am I expected to bend at the other two top levels? If I have hip stiffness, or if I have any groin stiffness, how am I able to really maximize my hip mobility and my hip flexibility? I can't, because I'm tight in that area. So we all kind of put that thing together. That's where, in my opinion, we've changed the approach of defensive line play, where now the physical development of it is a little different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're also a recruiter
That's
as
right.
well as a defensive line coach. What are some of the qualities and traits do you look for in an athlete to come to a Central?
Okay, so the staff all takes part. At the Division One level, you have 10 coaches that can go out, particularly here, that can go out and recruit at different schools. So we all have the state is broken up into regions. Every coach has 60 to 70 schools within the state to go out and recruit, right? So then for us, the first thing that we look for is just you have to have a passion and a love for football. Because at the end of the day, it has to mean something to you. You have to have a love for football. Like, you have to love it, because the love of football encompasses physicality, encompasses energy, encompasses positivity, encompasses team. And if you don't really have that love, then you're only going to work as hard for something that you love. I love my mother. I love her. I'll do anything for my mom. And that's what I think about football when I use the word love. Do you love football? It's something that you will do anything for. And that's what I believe the first trait that we absolutely look for in a potential prospect. They have to love the weight room, love what it takes to be successful at football. The second thing is really you're looking for a genuine competitiveness in them. They got to be competitive because now they have passion for it. So they're innately they should be a little more competitive. Got to go want to be the best, because now you have that natural energy to propel you. I already love it. Yeah. Now I really want to go be the best at it. So now you can maximize who that kid is, no matter what his physical features are, right? And then the last thing is being able to be of good, consistent character. Those are the initial 3 intangibles that we look for just for our prospects. And I said, it's just like the consistency in character is really important. What kind of decisions is he making? What kind of work habits does he have? What kind of thoughts is he, having? Because if you think about it, your mouth is only indicative of what your brain is thinking, right? Yeah. So we're only going to speak what we think. We're only going to speak and act the way that we practice every day. So that's where I think you take kids' character and you're like, okay, man, he loves football. He wants to compete, and the dude is he's pretty consistent with all his attitudes. He's not an up and down guy. Wow. And if he is up and down, you find out why. What's triggering that I should say that fluidity in character.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of research and studying with that.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's why you go into schools and you ask janitors, you ask teachers, you ask counselors. On your way out, if you happen to see the campus safety, like, hey, do you know this kid? Yeah. Can you tell me anything? Has he had any issues on campus or anything like that? So when you were walking around campus, that's why I don't necessarily always like to meet in an office. I like to go around campus. If the coach is out at practice, hey, I'll go out to the field and meet you, because I want to be able to see what's around the kid. Wow. Because that's where you get an idea of who the kid is, what he's around, and what he's been exposed to.
That's incredible. Yeah. I like that. So what's the toughest thing about recruiting to you specifically?
I think the toughest part is that there's so many factors today that I think impact kids' decisions that really have very little relevance to their decision. And I mean that by saying this: we live in a Twitter world.
Yes.
And I think there are standards and expectations that are set forth by Twitter that kids think they have to meet. Everybody wants to be that.
Right.
They want to be what's on Twitter, and it's not reality. Everybody needs to understand that they have a value. Everybody has a value. What your value is probably most important to anybody or anything with regard to what you do. And I don't think kids have enough of an understanding of, like, I don't need to go chase that, because I need to find where my value, where my tools are most important. And that's going to be the place for me. And the reason why I say that is because at times, they want to go chase the biggest and brightest thing. Sometimes the biggest and brightest thing may not be the best thing for you from a personal standpoint. Now, you're right. There's a reason to go to big schools, and you deserve their time. You think about it. If you were given that gift, that gift was put inside of you, man, go take it and run with it, because that's your opportunity. But not everybody gets that God-given ability where they can go compete at the highest level. Some get 10%, Now it's up to the coach to develop the next 90%, right? So kids need to understand that, and they don't, because what they exercise every single day is this. And that's like it's like lifting weights.
Yeah.
You think about it. If I'm doing this, I want to have really, really, really strong fingers, right? And really, really coordinated. But at the same time, I'm strengthening certain thoughts in my mind, because that's all I'm doing all day. I'm getting used to communicating without words, through text. I'm getting used to not having to really look and address people when I have issues.
Yeah.
I'm just practicing thoughts that are stimulated or triggered by the Twitter world, Instagram. All that is training who the kids are today. So now we as coaches have to go fight against that, or train against that, or recruit versus that, or recruit within that, to make it clear to the kid, hey, you belong at North Carolina Central because of this. This is the value that you bring to our program, and this is the values of our program can help enhance who you are.
Wow.
That's it. So that's really what it comes down to. When you find that out, and you have to work hard at that, because that is always present. We're not always present. We have a recruiting calendar. There's quiet periods, there's dead periods, there's all that. So yeah, we can be active just like everything else is on DM or text, right, or voice, but they're on Twitter 24 hours a day almost. I mean, by the time they're asleep, or Instagram time, they wake up. So those are the things they're going through every day. So that's, in my opinion, when you get to understand what world the kids are living in now you have to find out, how can my university, my program fit what that kid genuinely wants after all the Twitter stuff, after all the glitz and glamour, after all that. Like, how does it fit? Because not every kid's going to go play at a Power 5 conference.
That's right.
It just doesn't happen. Doesn't happen at all. So when you recognize that, it's like, how do we make that kid understand that without making him feel that, hey, we're not cutting away from his dreams?
I got you.
The dream is the dream to play at a Power 5 conference, or is the dream to play Division I football? Okay? Is it dream to play Division I football, or is the dream just to be part of a football program? And that's where you start getting into, like, hey, what's their love and what's their value?
I got you.
A little bit long-winded, but that's kind of what the science of this thing is.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love that. So, what's some of the differences between coaching at a PWI and an HBCU?
I think that haven't done that. Haven't been at Miami and FIU, and haven't been even at the junior college level. It's like I've gotten to see all the qualities that we look for, right? And I think that you have to understand that for kids nowadays, the challenges that they have every day, their ability to overcome, right? That skill is a little bit diminished, because everything is so accessible to them. So the ability to overcome sometimes is missing. I think at some of our HBCUs, we have to have that, in terms of, hey, we have to overcome because there's not enough staff on campus at times. We have to overcome because, hey, there's going to be some things that you're going to see that are different. So you got to have to really just understand it, right? And I think that when those logistical issues, that you have to really just be within the university to understand, those are the only thing. Because football at the end of the day is football. Football at the end of the day is training. We have a head strength and conditioning coach or two of them, right, with 4 interns, just like they do down the way. In terms of, other FCS programs. We may not have 20, but we have that group, but our kids are still getting, that level of training. So now, for me, it's just having to know what kid can fit that mentality to overcome on a consistent basis. Think about it. All it is just accessibility. All it is just really communication. All it is just, can I overcome some of the challenges that do come from some of our HBCUs? That's it. But sometimes when I put myself on the other side at the PWIs, as they refer to them, there's different types of challenges. So how do you know that kid can't overcome those are the challenges, or that kid can't overcome your challenges here? That's where, again, I tell you, knowing the person, knowing the intangible becomes a quality that you really have to know, because it's like, what challenges do we face on campus, and can that kid that I'm recruiting going to be able to overcome them? Am I going to be able to help them to overcome them, or is it just going to be a thing where they get here, they can't overcome it, they want to go home, they want to go transfer to another school?
Yeah.
So that's really, and I really don't think it's one or the other. It's just when you work at the HBCUs, or at the HBCU in particular here, you understand it. I can provide great, I'm talking about great academic support here. We have some of the best academic support staff we can. But so can that BWI. Right? Do we have 35 tutors? Some cases. We may not have 65, we have 35. Can you wait your turn long enough?
Right.
Where I don't have to wait my turn long enough. Where it's accessible, where it's a different mentality. And some of the kids can train and do it, but other kids say, hey, if I don't have to do it, why am I going to do it? And that's why you have to have a genuine passion for being here. For me, it's okay if a kid says it. It's not for me. Cool, no problem. Because I know that the kid that wants to be here, we have every resource in the world to help them be successful. Every resource in the world. We have people in our strength and conditioning department. We have doctors here, right? We have tutors. We have academic advisors. I mean, we have a beautiful setup for kids to be successful here. But it's that want to, that passion to want to be at that place that really gets you to say, hey, I'm going to graduate from this place. I'm going to be successful there. I really don't think is, outside of those challenges that I mentioned, really no different.
Man.
It's just who wants to deal with what? What do you want to deal with? Do you want to go to Food Line, or do you want to go to Harris Teeter?
It's just a difference of perspective.
That's it.
Wow.
You decide.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way you have to look at it. You know, it's like, hey, what do I get from that place? And it goes back to what's important to you.
Man.
What's important to you?
I love that. What's important to you? So my final question to you is, what would you tell a young, aspiring student athlete that wanted to play at collegiate level? What's the first thing you would let that person know?
I think that there's it's got to be it must be something that you want to do. It must be something that you are passionate for. It must be something that is born within you to want to go play. Don't play for anybody else. Don't play for the spotlight. Don't play to make Twitter happy. Don't play for that. Play because you genuinely love to play whatever sport you're playing. And just know that high school is the best time that you can to just enjoy the purity of the sport. Because once you start moving up and further up in the collegiate ranks, stuff like that, you know, you have to be built to understand that there's that player next to you. He's just as good as you are. That those 4 or 5 players behind you, they're just itching at an opportunity to get that little
window,
crease in that window to get right in front of you. So, and if you don't genuinely have that passion for the sport, that competitive nature, that no, they're not going to come take my job, that intangible piece where it's like, hey, I can keep a positive mindset to overcome in terms of character. If you don't have those 3 qualities, you're going to get chopped down at some point. Because you're not going to have the gas that you need or the feel that you need to go compete and be successful.
Man, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody listen to Coach. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Go Eagles.
Yes, sir. Go Eagles.